yeah, Barca has had like a good season and everything. Besides the Champions League, everything has been fine. The players have been good, and Hansi Flick has had a good debut season. So, like, give me a general overview of Barca's performance this season.
All right, Henry, thanks for having me again. We're back in good spirits. Proud to be a Barcelona fan again. And yeah, no, it's been fantastic. Fantastic few months for us
Yeah,
Barcelona's, as Blaugranas.
yeah,
Um, I will give us an A plus rating of the rip. You see,
yeah,
A
definitely.
A plus rating. Even actually, let me be more generous. Let me be
Yeah,
more honest. Actually, I'll say an A. Since we
yeah,
didn't win the
yeah,
Champions League,
yeah,
an A is
yeah,
picked. You know. But yeah, no, they surpassed all our expectations. We
yeah,
had young players playing like veterans, and we had some players that were injured,
mm,
like Balde in the last few
yeah,
key games. But the players still managed to pull it off.
yeah,
So three domestic titles in one season.
yeah,
Like that's a pretty good season.
yeah,
Um, People want to overlook the season because we didn't get to make it over the hump in the Champions League,
yeah,
but we'll be back again in that league
definitely,
again. Because we have
definitely,
a very young team, and
yeah,
the future looks bright. The future looks
yeah,
bright.
yeah.
So
That's
that's what I'll
true.
say. Yeah.
That's true. That's
And,
true. So yeah. So talking about the players being young and then they performing this way, I think sometimes we forget how young they actually are. We at the point you had about 4 17-year-olds in the starting lineup. Even that time, some of them were 16 because we forget
mm,
about Mark Bernal who got injured at the start of the season,
mm,
and he's I think he's back in training now. But it seems crazy because we've never seen it anywhere. Like what 4 17-year-olds, even let's say at getting to the end of the season, he was left with Pau Kubasi and Yamal.
Yamal.
Two
Mm,
17, 18. Right now, Yamal is now going to 18 years. It's so crazy to think about, and people forget about even players like Pedri, who seem like they are
mm,
veterans. They're all like still below 22, 21, and all that. So, yeah, that's a big deal for me. So let's highlight some key players in the Barca squad. Obviously, we know,
absolutely.
yeah, obviously we know Yamal, and then let's start with someone like Rafinha because people are starting to forget how good he was this season. So, what do you have to say about Rafinha?
Well, Rafinha, he's certainly surprised me, because
Yeah,
I was on the bandwagon who was calling
yeah,
for them to sell him,
yeah,
when he was underperforming against Xavi. But this year, yeah, Hansi Flick has installed a new confidence in him, different mentality, and a different approach to the game.
yeah,
He's certainly increased his goals and his just outputs in
yeah,
general. He's certainly one of the key players that drove the Barca team to this
mm,
success. Hence why he got a contract renewal to
mm,
2028.
yeah,
But yeah, his importance to the team cannot go unnoticed. He scored in the big matches, Inter,
yeah,
Real Madrid, all of them. So he's even captained the team in some big matches as well. And just his responsibility and his leadership has grown under Hansi
yeah,
Flick, and that's all we can ask for. And this is the Rafinha we expected when we signed him a couple years ago.
yeah, yeah,
But after he underperformed, people were quick to start to call to sell.
yeah.
But I'm glad the
Including
board didn't
us,
sell him.
including
Right,
us.
exactly. Because
Uh,
because that was a scenario there. He was underperforming at the moment, which is a
yeah,
fact.
yeah,
But yeah, that's not the case no more. And I just hope that he can just continue to play at this high level because this is what it really takes. People are talking about Ballon d'Or contender and stuff
yeah,
now.
yeah,
Just a year ago, that was not the case. He wasn't even mentioned in the whole
yeah,
discussion.
yeah,
So I'm very happy for him, and I just pray for his continued success. Because Barcelona is going to depend on that in the
yeah.
future for sure,
Mm.
for
And
sure.
and it's crazy how it's also reflected in his international performances because even in Brazil with Vini and all these other big guys, he still seemed like the main man. He was scoring free kicks. he was taking penalties. While like there were other big players on the pitch. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So
Right.
yeah. So let's talk about the star boy now, of course. Yamal,
Mm.
17 years, going on 18 years. He's in the Ballon d'Or conversation as well. You know, he's in the Spanish national team. He's their best player. He's almost people are now saying he's the best player in the world because they always used to say, "Oh, the best young player, best young." Because but now it's like, okay, if you are thinking of wingers in the world, who is a better right winger than him? If maybe you can say in terms of output, maybe Mo Salah in terms of just output, but even in terms of pure football, he's not up to that level. What do you think his ceiling is like for someone like Yamal?
Wow. Yamal doesn't have a ceiling, you know. He's shooting for the stars and the moon and above, you know. He's a kid with the whole world on his feet. And I'm very happy for how his season turned out. At his age, he's already won the Euros. He's won a few Best Young Player awards, the La
Yeah,
Liga, Copa del Rey. The list goes on and on, you know.
yeah,
And this he's on pace to do some great things in the game, and he's an absolute joy to watch. As he said, his touch is one like I've never seen
yeah,
before, you know, especially at such a young age.
yeah,
Like once he's on the pitch, we all forget that he is 17 years old. You know,
yeah,
he's still
definitely.
not he's still not legally allowed to buy a beer.
He
You
can't
know,
even
but this
drive.
is exactly. So this is what he's doing at the age of 17. I just hope he keeps his head down and continues to perform. You know,
Yeah,
he's a very humble kid at this moment,
yeah,
and you can really tell he loves the game. He's obsessed of the game. He's a
yeah,
winner, you
yeah,
know. And people really talk down on Barcelona getting knocked out of the Champions League. For me, I'm okay with it, you know, because
yeah.
I don't want everything to come to Yamal too
Too
soon.
soon. That's
Exactly,
the
you know,
thing.
because I don't want him to lose any motivation. You
Yeah,
see, I bet you the next few seasons, when we see him in the Champions League, you're going to see a man on a mission.
yeah,
You know, he's going to be laser focused because, again, he's a kid who's just living his dream, you know, and
yeah,
he's playing like it. He's playing very carefree. He's not intimidated by the older men. He
yeah.
actually thrive,
He
thrives
doesn't
under
care.
pressure, you know? Exactly. So, yeah, I don't think I've seen anyone quite like him before. You know, he definitely has his unique way of playing. People are already trying to make the comparison between him and the great Lionel Messi,
Yeah,
but I think it's a little too early
it's
for
too
that.
early. Too early.
And I like how he blocks out those comparisons. You know,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
talks about how he wants to
yeah,
create his own identity, which I think is important
yeah,
for a kid who is on the big stages. There's a lot of noise that comes around you,
yeah,
and I think he's handled that very well. You know,
yeah,
he stayed focused to improve his game, and
yeah.
if it continues like this under Hansi Flick, it's going to be scary what he can achieve. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, definitely, definitely.
yeah.
And talking about those comparisons with Lionel Messi, I've also done some comparison myself, but in a positive way, not like maybe he will be as good as Messi. But I think in terms of positioning, you see, Messi started out playing on the right like him, and eventually he
Mhm.
moved. Pep moved him into like a false nine kind of position
Right.
where he got more goals. That's when he was able to score his 91 goals. That's where we saw Messi being Messi, because he was
Mm.
closer. Pep said he just wants him closer to the pool because he knows what he can
Right.
do. So what
Right.
what what do you think about Yamal in that position? Because honestly, I don't see Yamal like a player who can do that false nine thing because he's a little
Mm.
lanky. He's
Right.
a little lanky and he's not as quick. He's not as quick as Leo. So what
Mm.
what what do you think?
Well, for me, for now, I think he's thriving in the right wing
Yeah,
position, and I don't think we should disrupt that. I think we should
yeah,
let him grow more into that.
yeah,
Messi was changed to a cam around when he was 25, 24, you know.
yeah,
So by that time, he was still a little bit mature.
yeah,
But again, we're talking about a 17-year-old kid, you
yeah.
know, who
I
just
mean,
goes out there and plays freely. And yeah, it's very hard not to compare the both again
yeah,
because ever since Leo, this is the youngest baller we've seen, you know.
yeah,
I mean, He takes on people with confidence. He strikes the ball with venom, and he has the vision of the best players out there. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, for me, I think he's going to continue on the right side
yeah,
because he loves to chop in and
yeah,
use his left wand to
yeah,
bend it in. So yeah, right now I think he's good there, but for the future we never know. And as
yeah,
for his
yeah,
physique as he grows older
yeah,
and mature in the game,
yeah,
he's gonna start working out and grow
yeah,
into his body a little bit more.
yeah,
So yeah, and for his lanky physique, he actually hasn't had many injuries, to be
yeah,
honest. So he's a durable player, you know,
yeah,
and that's pretty important. That's actually very important, you know. So
mm,
you need the players to be available. He was
mm,
available for the key games,
yeah,
you know, and so yeah, no, I think he's on the right path.
mm,
He's great for his age, and
mm,
all they just need to do is just protect him as much as they can and
yeah,
give him the best coaches, you know. So
yeah.
that's it. I can definitely see a Ballon d'Or in his near future.
Definitely, at least two. At least two. At least. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll go before we go to the next player. Okay, we'll talk about the next player, and then I'll ask you
Mhm,
about the disappointments of the season and then the surprise of the season, besides the players we are
mhm.
talking about. So the next player we'll talk about is Pedri. We can talk
Oof,
about Lewandowski as well, but I
yes.
think Pedri Pedri is one who forms a partnership with Rafinha and Lamine very well. So yeah, and then they are not too old. They are not as old as Lewandowski, even though Rafinha is a little older. So
Mhm,
I want us to talk about the three. So let's talk about Pedri.
mhm.
You and I, we also criticized Pedri at the start, not at the start of this season though, but at the start of his Barcelona career, because he was
Right.
getting too much hype, and
Mm,
we are afraid that he might get into his head. You know,
right. Right.
he played a lot in that season where he played over 70 games, and then
Hmm.
he was burned out, he lost weight and everything, and we are just bashing him, and then but
Right.
this season we all bought into the idea. You see, we all bought
Right.
into the idea of Pedri as the new midfield thing in Barca. He's the leader of the
Hmm.
midfielders in Barca. So
Yeah.
how good has Pedri's season been?
Wow, honestly, so for Pedri, I would have to rate his season as a honestly an A as well, to
Yeah,
be honest, because he surprised me as he did you.
yeah,
As he said, we weren't big fans of him in the past, but this season he's proven to be a super midfielder, you know, and he's one of the reasons why Barcelona had so much success,
yeah,
you know, because every successful team needs a solid midfield, you
yeah,
know, a midfielder that can really spray the ball around, a midfielder that has the vision to pass the ball to any player at any point in the pitch. And Pedri was exactly that this season.
yeah,
You know, he was durable as well, no
yeah,
injuries.
yeah,
And we have to give our props to Barcelona because I actually heard that they had a training plan specifically designed for him
yeah,
in order for him to avoid injuries.
yeah,
And honestly, props to them for insinuating that because he's going to be a key part of us winning
yeah,
trophies. And yeah, no, he's been very, very good. If he can add goals to his game,
yeah,
that would even elevate him to the higher level.
yeah,
But he's already scored a few big goals, like the goal
yeah,
he scored in the El Clasico.
yeah,
You know, that was a beautiful one to
yeah,
help us win that one. And yeah, he's a crucial player. He's a crucial player for Barcelona. And to be honest, he's priceless for us because
yeah.
we're not selling him. You know, he's
Nah,
I'm sure he's
no.
gonna he's gonna be in high demand, but
Yeah,
he's a Barcelona player now.
yeah.
So yeah, Pedri is fantastic.
Mm. And even talking about Pedri still, people always focus on just his passing and stuff, but his recovery is actually good. He recovers a lot of balls.
Mm,
He gets back
mm,
into his own half. He chases back and stuff. And it's amazing. Given he's not a big guy, he can actually shrug guys off the ball and stuff like that. So that's a good treat from him as well. So we have to give him props for that. So
absolutely.
yeah, onto what I said, the disappointment of the season and then the surprise of the season. So let's do the bad one first. I have
Mhm.
two players in mind when I
Yeah.
when I think about the disappointment of the season. One, not too much a disappointment because he was injured. Like, so that one is Gavi
Mm.
because he was more like what Pedri is now before he got
Right,
injured. And
right.
he got injured. And the second one is Ansu Fati.
Ah,
Yeah,
you
the
stole my one.
second one.
Yes.
So yes, talk about the two of them. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, with Gavi, we didn't get to see much of him this
yeah,
season because, like you said, he was injured majority of the season,
yeah,
and he had a few cameos here and there, but that was not enough to get his fitness level up to where it needed to be
yeah,
to compete at the highest level. So I think this season for him is a write-off. You see, you
yeah,
just have to write this one off and hope that he has a great season of training and recovery, rehab, all of
mm,
that, so he can get back into his top form, top shape.
yeah,
Because he has a lot of potential too. Because he's technically gifted.
yeah,
He can also score goals, and
yeah,
he's very aggressive on the
yeah,
ball. You know, he
yeah,
can go chase, and
yeah,
he does anything for the ball. You know, I know you've seen those pictures of him using his head as a
yeah,
shield on the ground.
yeah,
So yeah, he's really one of those kind of players. You know,
mm,
and every team needs one of those players.
yeah.
He
At least
never
one.
backs
Yeah,
exactly. He never backs down from a challenge,
mm,
and yeah, he's very aggressive. And you know, Barcelona, if there's one thing that we like in our team, it's aggressiveness.
yeah,
You know, so when we have these players, we have to really keep them.
yeah,
So yeah, I think he's still on the right path. He has a lot of time. He's still young.
yeah,
So I feel like he's going to be have a good season next season. You know, he just has to stay away from the injuries,
yeah,
and who knows, maybe Barca have to have a training plan solely for him as well
yeah.
to avoid
Same
injury.
thing.
You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
same thing.
but he's a good player though, a
Yeah.
promising player.
Okay, and then to Fati.
Yeah, Tufati is just I'm at loss for words on this
Uh,
one because I mean he was at the latter stages of Messi's career.
yeah,
He was one of the shining the bright shining light in Barcelona,
yeah,
right? He was the one that was actually helping Messi while the other
yeah,
players weren't too great.
yeah,
And we've already seen his potential. We already know what he can do.
yeah,
But again, it's just sad to see injuries derail him.
yeah,
After injury, he just couldn't get back his confidence. He lacked the pace,
yeah,
and he just lacked his touch, you
yeah,
know. And after he was loaned to Brighton last season, that definitely took a knock on his confidence,
yeah,
and he just never looked the same. He just looked a shade of himself, and yeah, maybe some people say maybe the number 10 jersey was too heavy for the
heavy.
kid to wear, and honestly, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah,
People said he got a little bit arrogant because it got into the Barcelona news that his father was trying to negotiate
yeah,
a bigger contract and stuff like that.
yeah,
So maybe that's what people say the falling out started with Ansu Fati. But yeah, to be honest, it's very hard to pinpoint how such a great young talent could just kind of fall down all of a sudden, you know,
yeah,
and be starting to be loaned out. And I even saw in some reports that Monaco actually just submitted a bid for him,
yeah,
and it looks like that's where his final destination
mm,
is going to be, and it's
yeah,
it's, it's actually sad to see, and it breaks my heart because he was one of my favorite players, as you
yeah,
know. You know, I
yeah,
used to rave about him, and yeah, it's just he just kind of went under the radar, and then he just never could recover from that. And
yeah,
again, it's just disappointing, you know, because I thought this season was going to be his breakout season with
yeah,
a new coach in Hansi Flick,
yeah,
who has installed confidence in other players that we never thought were going to be good, like even Eric Garcia, for example.
yeah,
You know, he's playing decently under Hansi Flick.
yeah,
So I had that same expectation for Ansu Fati as well, you know, because I knew if he was to get the best out of Ansu Fati, he would have been a good addition to the team,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
if he could get him back to his pace, his shooting,
yeah,
and his power, you know.
yeah,
So again, just sad to see him go out this way, and hopefully he can do well in Monaco and get his career back on track. Because I'm definitely rooting for him still. I'm a
yeah,
fan.
still, yeah, yeah. That's true. Actually, it breaks my heart too to see. I just imagine when if we had Ansu at his peak, full Ansu. I mean, for the timeline we've known him at his peak. Imagine Yamal here and Ansu here, where you can have Rafinha in the middle. That would have been a
Mm,
team. That would have been a
yeah.
team, but too bad we couldn't get it that way. So we wish him all the best. I'm definitely sure he'll leave because
Oh yeah.
they need space in the team to bring more signings and stuff. So
Right.
definitely. So
Mm.
yeah, on to the surprise of the season. The surprise of the season. Who do you have in mind? What do you think? Which player
Uh,
surprised you?
yeah. For me again, I'll have to go with Eric Garcia,
Eric
because
Garcia.
because yeah, again I didn't know he actually had technique on
Yeah,
the ball. You know, he
yeah.
can actually play a CDM, a right
Back
back, and a
and
center
center back.
back. So he's versatile. You know,
Yeah,
and yeah, he actually scored a few big goals this season. Like
yeah.
just recently, he started the comeback in the El Clasico, and
Mm.
he also scored the big goal against
Against Inter.
Inter
Yeah.
Milan in the Champions League.
He,
Unfortunately, we still came up short.
yeah,
But yeah, no, he's one that surprised me because I've always been calling for them to sell him because
yeah.
I thought he made too many mistakes in game.
Yeah. He actually
Um,
did. He did,
well,
but
yeah, he's
he has improved.
exactly. Yeah, he's improved, but like,
Yeah.
yeah. So he's a little bit faulty, but
Yeah.
once I feel like Hansi Flick has made his play style much more calm. You know, he's
Yeah.
less rash on the ball,
Yeah.
and he actually has time to think and
Mm.
process what needs to be executed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's improved a lot.
Yeah.
And one more pleasant surprise is Danny Elmo. You know,
Yeah.
Danny Elmo, even though he's injury prone and a little bit
Yeah.
fragile, he's a fantastic player. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
he can play that false nine position. He's
Yeah.
very aggressive,
Yeah.
and he has a good foot on him. He can shoot
Mm.
the ball. You know,
Yeah.
so he was also one of the pleasant surprises.
Mm.
It's just a matter of keeping him fit and available
Yeah.
for every game. You know, I don't
Mm.
think he's one of those players that can play every game all season
Yeah.
long. You know, he
Mm.
has to be. He plays one game here, one game 80 minutes, one game 60 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what they do. It's a lot of game management with him,
Yeah.
and again, that just boils down to him being very delicate.
Yeah.
But yeah, fantastic player. He definitely surprised me,
Mm.
and he's gelling well with the Spanish boys. So
Yeah.
it's good to see. It's good to see.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true. So
Mm.
there's one more player I like to add, Inigo Martinez. He's
Ah.
old. He's
Yeah.
33. He's not the typical player of this squad because this squad there are a bunch of young players and everything. But
Mm.
he just and we all at the start of the season even we all forgot about Ronaldo Araujo.
Oh.
He was
Yeah.
also he's actually one of my disappointments as well. But
Right.
we all expected him to pair up with Pau Kubasi, but
Right.
Hansi Flick realized that Inigo Martinez is actually like smart. He can give those
Mhm.
long diagonal passes.
Right.
He's not faulty. And
Right.
then
Right.
he teaches Pakubasi a little, the old man, young guy kind of thing. He teaches him,
Veteran.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like he's also a surprise of the season for me. And then he's now
Yeah.
making it into the Spanish national team and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a good,
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, no, to echo what you said,
Yeah,
yeah, no, everybody expected Ronald Araujo to have his breakout
yeah,
year.
yeah,
But again, injuries derailed him. And
yeah,
after he returned back from injury, he just hasn't been the same. You know,
yeah,
he's lacked confidence.
yeah,
And a lot of people point fingers at him
yeah,
for the final goal against Inter Milan in the
yeah,
final minutes, you know.
yeah,
So he's cost Barcelona a lot this season.
yeah,
But again, he was pretty good before. So
yeah,
I don't know if they want to sell him or not, but
yeah,
I wouldn't mind keeping him just because he's still young. He's about 26,
yeah,
so he still has time to learn from those mistakes.
yeah.
But yeah,
That's true. So
yeah,
yeah. So now let's look forward to next season for Barcelona.
yeah,
Transfers, outgoing
hmm,
players. Let's
yeah,
let's let's tackle the players you think should go out.
yeah.
Give me like three players you think should leave the team.
Oh, as for three, yeah, three is a little bit too much because I think right now we're on the right path.
Yeah,
But for me, I think number one that we have to be looking to replace has to be Lewandowski.
yeah,
You know, I know that might be a little bit controversial out there since he
yeah,
was our top goal scorer, competing for golden boots
yeah,
and all the good stuff you want your striker to be doing,
yeah,
you know. But we really have to consider his age
yeah,
and his speed and just his whole outplay in general,
yeah,
his field play and his connection with the players. I personally believe that he slows down the
yeah,
team,
yeah.
you know, in the offense. And sometimes he actually misses chances that
Big
should be scored,
chances.
you know, even in the game today
Yeah,
against Atletico Bilbao.
yeah,
He missed some glaring chances, you
yeah,
know, and you wouldn't expect him to miss that, especially when he's chasing Kylian Mbappe for the Golden Boot.
yeah,
He could have actually surpassed him today. He could have
yeah,
scored 4 goals today,
yeah, yeah.
four
More,
four good chances, you
more.
know. So I feel like even though yes, he scored a lot of goals, he has been wasteful in front of goal.
Yeah,
And I think we need to get a more high energy striker
yeah,
that is just all pace running throughout the game.
yeah,
Someone of Julian Alvarez's caliber,
yeah,
you know, a clinical finisher
yeah,
and a hard working
yeah,
player, you know, a
yeah,
player that would run for you 90 minutes.
yeah,
So yeah, I think Barca just need to look in because Lewandowski is also one of the highest paid players on the
yeah.
team, you know.
He can he
So
can he can be he can like two players can replace him in terms of
exactly.
salary. Yeah,
Exactly. So that is also the huge factor in why we
yeah,
have to replace him for another striker.
yeah.
And yeah, so if okay, so you say you want 3 players, I will give you 3 players.
Okay.
Uh, one that I also think can go is Ter Stegen.
Ter
You see,
Stegen,
yeah,
Ter
I think
Stegen.
Ter Stegen, yeah, I think Ter Stegen can go. Some people might say it's controversial, but
I'll
Ter
say it's
Stegen,
controversial. Chesney, you like
because
Chesney?
I prefer Chesney to
Who?
him.
This
Because
guy.
Ter Stegen is too faulty. You see, he wants to follow the likes of Manuel Neuer and play with the ball on his feet. And I've seen him make too many mistakes like that, you know, where the ball gets caught up in his feet. One,
Yeah,
and sometimes a player plays a shot and
yeah,
he kind of gets rooted to the ground. He
yeah.
doesn't even attempt to save the ball. And that's the worst thing a goalkeeper can do.
Mm,
You know, so I think it's been a mix of things. Lots of faulty mistakes from Ter Stegen
mm,
and just not doing well enough to stop all the balls, you
yeah.
know. And yeah, I think Chesney he's a much more safer option, even though we see the pictures of him smoking and stuff in the dressing room. he's a he's a much more secure option. And
Yeah,
Barcelona actually, I believe they've only lost 1 or 2 games when
yeah,
he's in nets. You
mm,
know, so it's been
yeah,
very few games that we've lost.
yeah,
And I'm not saying he should be our number one goalkeeper or
yeah,
anything, but maybe we should find someone like Donnarumma or something.
mm,
You see, and my final time, I see the timer up here. So my final
yeah,
one would be like we all discussed right now,
yeah,
Ronald Araujo. You
yeah.
know, because yeah,
Damn.
he's just after I think there was interest from Juventus. I think we should have
Yeah.
taken that window of
There
opportunity
was 100 million for
because
Man U as well a few seasons
oh yeah,
ago. Yeah, Man U.
wow. Yeah, so I think he just needs to go because he's lost his confidence. He's lost
Yeah,
the confidence of the coach, and he's kind of been shunned from the
yeah,
team. Like he's always been pushed to the sideline,
yeah,
even though they try to give him the captaincy for
yeah.
some games
It
out of
doesn't feel
respect.
right.
Exactly. It almost
Yeah,
feels forced, you
yeah,
know? So yeah, I think he too can go just start afresh somewhere else because again, he had a warrior mentality.
yeah,
But when he plays these days, you don't see that mentality
yeah,
on the pitch, you know? You see a frail player, a player
yeah,
that has lost his confidence, a player that is out of touch with the team, you know? So I feel like yeah, we can really replace that. So
yeah.
those are my 3 players. Those are my
Okay.
3 players.
Nice, nice. Okay. I don't agree with the Stegen, but hey, what let's talk about incomings as
Yeah,
well.
but
Okay.
wait. Then what are your 3 players? Then let me hear your 3 players
I
too.
agree with Ronald Araujo. I agree with who else did you say? He said
Lewandowski.
Lewandowski. Yes, I agree with
Yeah.
Lewandowski. And I have Gerard Martin, left back Gerard
Oh yeah.
Martin. I don't like that guy.
He's
That
still young though. He's
he's,
young.
he's, he's still young, but you can see that he's not the type of player. Barca, we need a rapid guy. You see, we need a
Yeah.
Jordi Alba,
Right.
Balde kind of. We don't. He's like he reminds me of Jeremy Mathieu. I don't even know if you remember that guy. It's just
I do.
Mathieu
The
is
French player.
yes.
Yeah.
He's bigger. Mathieu is bigger, but like the way he's slow, and then it's
Yeah.
like he takes his time. He's like a flamboyant guy.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't
I
like
think. I
players like
think.
that.
Yeah. I think Gerard Martin needs to work on his touch. His
Yeah,
touch is abysmal.
yeah,
Every time he touches the ball, it goes like 3 feet
yeah,
ahead.
exactly.
So he needs to improve a lot. But again,
Yeah,
like I said,
he's
he's a
young,
young
so
player,
yeah. I mean,
and he actually gave two beautiful
yeah,
crosses
in that
against
game,
Inter.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, he can learn.
he
He
can,
it's just
yeah,
that he played when Balde was available.
yeah,
We were always using Balde, so he
yeah,
lacked play time. So
yeah,
I think for him to come in and just kind of feeling like a makeshift left back, I think he did a decent job. I'll
yeah,
give him like a B minus
yeah.
in rating over there. But I
Anyway,
can definitely understand where you're coming from, though.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about one more thing before we go, and then we'll come back for Madrid and Atletico. So, incoming players. I don't think there's too much space for like a bunch of players to come in. But what do you think about Haaland replacing Lewandowski? How sweet do you think that would be?
Hey, but to my honest opinion,
Yeah,
just honestly wouldn't like Haaland to come and replace Lewandowski.
yeah,
You see,
because
for me,
it's scary. We are not sure how
it,
it will go. It might go very
exactly.
well, but it might go
It
bad.
might
Like,
go very bad.
yeah,
When he comes, it's going to be an extreme.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
either going to be very good or very bad.
yeah.
But for me, the player that I truly desire in Barcelona is Julian Alvarez.
Alvarez,
I'm
yeah,
not I'm
yeah,
not sure how realistic that is since his
mm,
move to Atletico Madrid was so
yeah,
recent,
yeah,
and Atletico Madrid are not going to sell him no less
yeah,
than 100 million.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so but that's truly who we need. A
yeah,
workhorse who is clinical in front of
yeah,
goal, and he has a good touch as well.
yeah,
His touch is good. Is as good as a midfielder's touch. You know,
yeah.
because I see how Haaland plays in Man City,
City, yeah,
and I see because City's play is almost similar to Barcelona's play,
yeah,
but it's just a little bit, I would say, quicker and more
yeah,
more passes
yeah. More
around.
passes than
But
us.
exactly. So it's pretty similar. So I've seen Haaland get locked down in some games, like the most
Yeah,
recent game against Crystal Palace,
yeah,
when they played the low block and
yeah,
against Southampton,
yeah.
and he was
He
completely
was
useless.
lost. Yeah,
Yeah, he didn't have a lot of touches in the game,
yeah,
and yeah, so for him being a good fit in Barcelona, it's going to be a little bit complicated.
yeah,
I think he might be a better bit fit for Real Madrid because they like the
yeah,
long balls and
yeah,
things. But yeah, Julian Alvarez will be my desired incoming
yeah.
player. And I've heard a few rumors that Barcelona also want to sign Luis Diaz from
Yeah.
Liverpool.
Guy is
and
he's
and
28. Yeah.
hey, but Rafinha is about 27 or around there.
Rafinha is already in the team. So it's like, hey,
Yeah, right.
yeah,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, for me, I don't think he would be a bad
yeah,
acquisition, to be honest.
yeah, yeah. He won't be bad.
Just so we can give the other players a little bit of rest. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
Because Rafinha, Yamal, they can't all be playing all the games
yeah,
all season. Especially if you
yeah,
want to be competing for all the trophies.
yeah,
It's gonna be a lot of games for them to play. So yeah, I think it's important that we get backup players, and so I think those two players can come in, and I also think we definitely need to get a left back as well.
yeah,
Just in case a left
yeah,
back and a right back, because
yeah,
I feel like if Balde, Kunde, if we're fully fit for that
yeah,
Inter Milan game, I
Yeah.
feel like Barca would have had a good chance of winning
Easily.
that. I feel like we would have won that,
If Balde
you
was in the
know?
game and maybe
Yeah,
Lewandowski, it would
right.
have been
You
easy.
know?
It would have been
Exactly.
I always said that game was an easy win for Barca because you could see how we came back with ease. We
Yeah,
just didn't
exactly.
have to concede as much because
Right,
I knew we could score at least 4 goals against Inter Milan. So all
right.
we needed to do was not concede as much, and they would have been.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, so that's it for Barca season, and then we wish them what we wish ourselves because Charlie, we are part of the farm. So we wish
Yeah.
ourselves a good next season. Yeah, you're saying something.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm saying that it's good that we're not competing in the Club World Cup, you
Yeah,
know. The
exactly.
the players get to really take their time,
Yeah,
reflect on the season, and rejuvenate for
yeah,
another hectic season to come, you
yeah.
know. So it's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, that's a good point because I
Yeah.
even shifting a little bit, even thinking of our boy in Inter Miami, I was like, I wish they didn't play here because I feel like he doesn't want to play the guy because he doesn't want to play, but like
Yeah.
he has to play.
Yeah, man, he's
Yeah,
tired, man. Because
yeah,
at the age of 36, it's not easy to compete in these kind
yeah.
of things, you know.
Nah,
So
nah.
it's tough. It's tough. But hey,
Yeah,
we'll see.
yeah. And he scored a banger yesterday too. If you, I don't know if
Oh,
you watched
Charlie,
it. Yeah,
I was watching, of
yeah,
course.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah. That one was
my
a sweet
boy,
goal.
he's yeah, he's still making us
Yeah,
Barcelona players
yeah,
proud. I do
yeah,
watch him every day.
yeah, yeah. Charlie,
even
midnight.
even though his team
Here is midnight, and
exactly.
I'll be watching him. So like, yeah,
Even though his team is not that doing that
yeah,
good these
yeah,
days, you know.
yeah,
Defensively, they're not the best, but
yeah.
it is what it is when you get to
Anyway,
watch the goats.
anyway. All right.
Yeah.
So we'll be back for Real Madrid and Atletico
All
Madrid.
right.
Moving on to Real Madrid. Um, they had a they had I can't say they had a bad season. They were second. So it's not really bad. And then they made it to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. So maybe let's say according to like Madrid standards, it's a pretty bad season because they didn't win anything. They say they
Mhm.
won the UEFA Super Cup. It's not classified as this season. Just throw that away. So this season they didn't actually win anything, and it's been bad. And it's very funny how the season where they got their best player, their so-called Black Jesus, the Black. So yeah. Anyway, you tell me what you think about Real Madrid's season overall. Yeah,
Yeah. So if it was any other team,
yeah,
we can give this season a B plus. But you know, since this is the Almighty Galacticos, we have to be brutally honest and harsh.
yeah,
You see, this was a catastrophic season for them, so we have to give them a C minus in
yeah,
general, especially with them bringing in the supposed best player in the world in
yeah,
Kylian Mbappe. You know, prior to the season beginning, everybody was counting them. They had already said, "Hey, Real Madrid have already won the Champions League. Real Madrid have already won the La Liga. Real Madrid have already won the Copa del Rey."
yeah,
You know, so Real Madrid were favorites for every competition they played in. So for them to end the season trophyless, it's a huge
yeah.
disappointment, you know, especially in the final season for Luka Modric and
Yeah.
Carlo Ancelotti. You know, you want
Lucas
to win things
Vasquez.
for Lucas Vasquez. You know, you want to win things for the legends. You know, you want
Yeah,
to make them proud, and
yeah,
especially in your final season.
yeah,
And they were unable to do that. And so for me, I can't say I'm so sad about that.
yeah, of
But
course.
yeah, with Real Madrid, it was a huge disappointment
Yeah,
in players like Vinicius
yeah,
and Rodri. They underperformed in the
yeah,
big games, you know.
yeah,
And yeah, we expect much more from them, especially Vinicius. Vinicius, we thought he was going to take his game to the
yeah,
next level after being so close to winning the Ballon d'Or last
yeah,
season, and he seemed pretty determined and pretty motivated
yeah,
to get back to the top of his game. But that simply didn't happen this season. You know, he was very mediocre in many
yeah,
games, and yeah, his goal tally didn't come anywhere near what he had scored the previous season. So yeah, that's one to look out. And then you see some of your top players are unhappy with your play time and your
yeah,
positioning, like Rodri.
yeah,
And I'm even hearing a lot of rumors that he might be out the door this summer, you know?
yeah,
And just because he's been outshone by the other stars, you know,
yeah,
all the attention goes to the Mbappes, the Viniciuses, the Valverdes, and Rodri almost seems to be forgotten majority of the
yeah,
time, you know. So that's always going to creep in the Eagles because they're all big players and they all want
yeah,
to be noticed when they do anything good. And Rodri is just not getting that attention at the
yeah,
moment. So it's very tough. It's very tough. Real Madrid have had a horrendous season defensively. A few of your players were injured. I understand that, but yeah, they just didn't make any signings to fill
yeah,
in those blank gaps, you
yeah,
know. And I feel like they were relying too much on their inexperienced
yeah,
players because they had no choice. The
yeah,
players were injured, but they really need to go hard this transfer
yeah,
window if they want to
yeah,
compete with the big boys.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, talking about the gaps that they had to fill, it's like we are now seeing the importance of a player like Tony Cruz in the midfield because it seems that this season they didn't have any creative midfielders. They had tacklers like Chouameni and Camavinga and even Bellingham. Bellingham is not that creative. He can score goals, but he's not like a Tony Cruz to like have that vision to so
Yeah.
they really lagged in that position, and it could be clearly seen. No creativity.
Mm.
All they could do was maybe get it wide to Vini or play it over the tops. Then they'll just run. They'll just yeah. Everybody will just be
Yeah.
running. Everybody wants to play on the left wing. I don't know
Right.
that kind of.
Right.
So it
Yeah.
was it was a disastrous season. And talking about individual players. Talking about individual players, what let's focus on Vinicius Junior for like a minute. What happened to him? Because this season he was really bad. Like I watched him a lot this season. I thought he would have been, going at it with Mbappe. Maybe this one will score it. Like it was actually really bad,
Mhm.
and he wasn't tracking back. He was like he was down, and it's reflected in the same way Rafinha's performance reflected in Brazil. Same thing happened for him because he reflected in Brazil. And can you believe that Vinicius Junior has scored less than 10 goals for Brazil now since he started playing for Brazil? So, like, what actually happened to him? What do you think were the factors that caused him to like play this bad? Because it's crazy.
Right,
Mm,
right. For me, in my opinion, I feel like it boils down to structure as a
yeah,
whole, you
yeah,
know, because they had new arrivals in Mbappe,
yeah,
and the team really forced to implement him in their system.
yeah,
And as you can remember, at the start of the season,
yeah,
they had that whole dilemma where all the players wanted to play on the left side,
yeah,
you know, and they were all just bunched up there,
yeah,
Vini, Rodri, and Mbappe. You know,
yeah,
they were still trying to figure out how to play with each other and
yeah,
how to build chemistry.
yeah,
And yeah, I definitely think that his lack of goals and just contribution as a whole is due to the arrival of Mbappe. You know, because
yeah,
we all expected there to be healthy competition in the team. You know,
yeah,
you need that healthy competition
yeah,
where it was like back in the day where Neymar will score a goal,
yeah,
Messi scores, and then um,
yeah,
Suarez scores, or Cristiano scores,
yeah,
Benzema scores, and Bale scores. You know, it
yeah,
was healthy competition. The front three drove each other,
yeah,
but in this front three, I see it different. You know, it's
yeah,
almost like some of them are envious of the
yeah,
other. Some of them did when they get subbed off, they always complain. They're
yeah,
like, "Why take me off? Why don't
yeah,
take him off?" You
yeah,
know, and so they weren't really playing for each other. I feel, you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like it was more of an individual play,
yeah,
and yeah, you can even see that in Mbappe's game. Like
yeah,
his individual play was all right. You know, he
yeah,
was scoring. He scored more
yeah,
goals.
yeah,
He won the Golden Boots,
yeah,
but his team wasn't performing that well. You
yeah,
know, and you need a team to perform well, and everyone needs to be scoring goals in order to
yeah,
keep everyone's confidence high and morale up. You know,
yeah,
there were some chances that I've been watching games. Vinny had it like some chances to pass an open ball
yeah,
for Mbappe to score,
yeah,
but he would rather take the shot and
yeah,
miss. And when you
yeah,
miss that,
yeah,
you know, it becomes an
yeah,
argument, and
yeah,
then a little bit of bad blood in between, and vice versa. Mbappe too in some shooting positions. So yeah, I just feel like they just haven't gelled as a team. But players of that caliber after one season, that should be enough for you guys to start
yeah,
gelling, you know?
yeah,
In these high games, there's not enough time. They don't give you time to gel, you know?
yeah,
You either gel or not, and then
yeah,
that's what it is. So when it comes down to Vinny, I think his lack of performance this season boils down to new players and him not having chemistry with them, and also a few distractions too, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Because I feel
Off
like
the pitch
Vinny,
stuff.
yeah, Vinny puts unnecessary pressure on his shoulders, you know,
Yeah,
pressure that he doesn't have to put on there. He
yeah,
puts it on there. So for me, that's what it is. The guy's always running after the refs,
yeah,
always arguing about something, you know.
yeah.
Just play football. That's what you get paid millions to do, you know.
Just kick the
So
ball.
exactly. So just play well, put the ball at the back of the net, and you be good. You
Yeah,
know, but for some reason, Vinny is always in the
yeah,
headline, not for his
yeah,
goals or his
mm,
assists, but
yeah,
more for controversial stuff.
yeah,
So I feel like once he focuses on football, he should get back to the right track, you know?
yeah. All right. Anyway, yes, and speaking about what you said about the front three gelling, like the MSN and then the BBC and all that, I think when
Yeah.
you have a front three of world-class players, there needs to be a hierarchy. You know, some of the players have to
Mm.
understand that this one is better than us, and this one is
Right.
this. You know, that can because if you have a front three that thinks they are all Messi or they are all Ronaldo,
Exactly.
it's not going to
Yeah.
work because
Nope.
when it comes to Barca, Emerson, you could see that all of them knew that Messi was the guy, and then
Right.
followed by Messi, Neymar, and then
Hmm.
and then so when Messi is not there, Neymar is the one who takes the free kicks, the penalties, and stuff. And then same thing for Real
Hmm.
Madrid. We all knew Ronaldo was the guy, but when Ronaldo
Right.
is not there, when it comes to the penalties and stuff, was Benzema before
Hmm.
Bale. But
Right.
you can see it even with Vini, Mbappe, Rodrigo, even Bellingham. You can even add him to the equation. You can see it in the penalty situation. You don't know who is going to take the penalty. It's like
Right.
today Mbappe is taking, tomorrow Vini is taking, another day Bellingham is taking, and that kind of
Hmm.
thing. But we never,
Yeah.
it never happened like that in the MSN, unless maybe Messi says, "Oh no, you name a take," and it never
Yeah.
happened like that in the BBC as well. So that's what I think they have to do. They have to get a clear hierarchy. But I'm
Right.
sure each of them will feel that they are the best, especially Vini and
E-
Mbappe. They all feel
Exactly.
that they are the best because they've
Hmm.
all been close to winning the ballon. None of them have won it yet, but they've all been really
Hmm.
close to winning it before. So
Right.
that's ultimately, I think that would be their distraction because they are not going to agree on who will be the main man. That's the thing.
Right.
Yeah. So
And and
yeah,
and just to add to that, they're also
yeah,
around similar ages, you
yeah,
know. They also around similar ages. So
yeah,
again, all of them want to feel like the man.
yeah,
And then no one wants to concede. And
yeah,
especially I feel like Vinny be feeling like, hey, I've been in Real Madrid
yeah,
longer.
yeah,
You're coming into my house, you know
yeah,
what I mean? So he feels like Mbappe is coming for his throne, you know.
yeah.
So yeah, that's what I feel. Until they're able to sort that out,
Okay.
they're always gonna have this issue, you know, about who should take the penalties, who's the main man taking all the set pieces and stuff like that. So yeah, they really need to sort that out. If not, they will have a hard
Yeah,
time.
that's
Yeah,
that's true. And personally, I don't think it's going to be sorted out until one of them gets sold. I don't think it's
yeah,
going to be sorted out in any way. So,
yeah.
let's see. I hope it doesn't get sorted out. Then I mean, we're on the opposite side. So yeah,
No,
yeah.
exactly.
At the start of the season, we spoke about some of the players. We had a laugh, about players like Hendrick and all these other youngsters. So, how do you think Hendrick has done this time?
Well, I mean, oof, it's been bad for the kids. I mean,
Yeah.
very, very
Rough
bad.
times. Rough
The
times.
the lights in the Bernabeu were too bright for the kid.
Yeah.
I mean, it was obvious just from his outbursts on the bench.
Yeah.
You know, every time the camera was to pan on him,
Mm,
he wasn't showing supportiveness off the bench as a
yeah.
young player.
Yeah.
Um,
I saw
and
that.
yeah, for me, personally, I believe the move was too early for a
Yeah.
young buck
Yeah.
at the tender age of 16 years
Yeah.
old. You don't play in Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Not very few people have managed to do that
Yeah.
actually. So yeah, it's I think it was a horrible mistake, a horrible move for him to move to Real Madrid. And I think he was a bit naive in moving
Mm,
to Real Madrid
yeah,
because he went there with the hopes of actually playing.
yeah,
And that was never going to be the case, especially with the signing of Mbappe,
yeah,
you know. And unfortunately for him, that's his position. He plays in Mbappe's position,
yeah,
and we're talking about the rivalry between Mbappe and Vini, but we don't
yeah,
even mention Endrick
yeah,
and Mbappe, you know.
yeah,
So I I feel like those two are they need to work on that
yeah,
and get better, you know.
yeah,
So that's what they'll do. That's what they'll do,
yeah.
and then
That's
we'll go
true.
from there.
So
Yeah.
yeah, Hendrick had a bad season, and then there was a point in time where even Carlos spoke about he has to tone down or something. He said something about because he was too, I don't know, there was something about his attitude that he was like he has to like calm down or something because
Mhm.
the guy is young, he has energy, he has a lot of
Yeah.
energy, and then he's on the bench the whole time. So when he comes in, he has to find a way to expel that energy. So he
Right.
seems to do over. He'll be
Right.
jogging
Right.
around the pitch after the match is over and stuff like that. And even
Right.
and he has a similar situation of like he has some similar thing with Mbappe and Vini, that thing where he shoots when he's supposed to pass. He does a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes you can see that it's not time to shoot. Like you can see that, yeah, nah. Then the guy just takes a shot, and even
Yeah.
sometimes his teammates will be upset. They'll be throwing their hands in the air and stuff like that. You know,
Right.
so
And yeah,
yeah,
with Vinny and Mbappe, you can understand because those
yeah,
those guys are actually proven players, you
yeah,
know. But with Endrick, this
yeah,
we haven't seen much footage of the kid, you know.
yeah,
So he hasn't yet earned the right to be shooting from afar
yeah,
and taking all of these chances, you
yeah,
know. But honestly, in the near future, I see him being loaned out to a
yeah,
team, and because again, Mbappe is not going anywhere
yeah,
anytime soon. And unless you're able to maneuver and change his position to a
yeah,
winger,
yeah,
that's about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
fact. Yeah, so Hendrik bad season, and yeah, let's talk about another one of their youngsters, Ada Goulet. For
mhm,
me, I that he's actually a good player. He has impressed me a lot because even with the limited play time, anytime he comes in, you can see him making a difference in the team. People
mhm,
were saying, some of the Madrid fans I know were saying that they should try and play him in the Tony Cruz role. I don't think he can play the Tony Cruz role, nah,
mhm, mhm.
or even the Luka Modric. Like he can play more of the Bellingham role, like when he's closer to the
Attacking.
yes, more attacking.
Yeah.
He can't
Yeah.
sit in. Nah, he's not that. Even though his passing is good and stuff. So, but
Mhm.
I don't. I think he can go to a team like AC Milan or something like a regular team. He says he wants to succeed in Real Madrid. When I look at
Yeah.
the team, I don't think he's necessarily going to get in. Maybe his playing time might go higher. Maybe who knows? Jabi Alonso might like him, but
Mhm.
I don't think he's going to get in over maybe Bellingham just for the fact that they bought Bellingham for over 100 million. They are not going
Yeah.
to. Yeah. So what do you think about Ada Gule?
Yeah. So with Arda Güler, I'm sure you've heard the comparisons between him and Mesut Ozil, you know.
Yeah.
But I feel like Real Madrid have a different play style as to when
Yeah.
they were playing with Ozil.
Yeah.
Now Real Madrid just like to have the central midfielders. Even Bellingham sometimes
Yeah.
plays as a central
Yeah.
midfielder, and he's given free reins to attack,
Yeah.
but then has
Yeah.
to return back to
Yeah.
defense. Yeah, so with other Guler, I think he's technically gifted. He has a rocket on his foot,
Yeah.
but I just don't see him having the defensive prowess that is
Yeah.
necessary to be a midfielder.
Yeah.
Nor does he have the physical
Yeah.
presence to be shoving people in the midfield and dominating.
Yeah.
So yeah, with him, he's still a young player,
Yeah.
and I just feel like he's one of those players that have also made a mistake in signing for Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Real Madrid have never been notorious for building up young players.
Yeah.
Real Madrid are notorious for buying already made
Yeah.
players. So when I see all these young players making the mistake of signing with Real Madrid at such a young age and just kind of sitting on the bench
Yeah.
throughout the whole season, I do feel bad for them to an extent,
Yeah,
but again, what did you expect in going in Real
yeah,
Madrid, you know?
yeah,
So it's gonna be tough for him to break into the team, but anything is possible, especially with the new coach coming
yeah,
in, Xavi Alonso, who was an ex-Real Madrid midfielder.
yeah,
So he's won multiple trophies over there. So he certainly knows what it takes
yeah,
to be a midfielder in Real Madrid. So who knows? Maybe Xavi Alonso would be able to change his mentality and his play style as a whole, you know. But
yeah,
and now that Modric is departed,
yeah,
there's a vacant spot over there, you
yeah,
know. So so yeah, it's gonna be a battle for him
yeah,
next season, you know. So let's see what he can do. But I
yeah,
think he's a talented player.
yeah.
He was on the verge of signing with Barcelona.
Yeah, I think you should
I
have done
think
that.
you see he would have been
Yeah,
better in Barcelona
yeah,
because look at the teams that the players that we have, the young
yeah,
players, you know.
yeah. You would have
Barca
gelled so
actually.
much with them.
Exactly. So yeah, I think he's still gonna struggle. He's gonna have to fight for his position.
Mm,
And yeah, it's up to him, you know, and the coach. But
yeah.
I think he made the wrong choice in signing for Madrid.
Yeah, that bad choice, and but I wish him
Yeah.
the best. I think at some points he might realize that he's not going to make it in Real Madrid.
Yeah.
He actually leave, and I think you get a decent team, a very
Oh yeah.
decent. Yeah, you get a decent team. And
Yeah.
to echo something that he said about the way they used to play, those days they used to play with a front three and then the number 10 behind.
Right.
They used to play with a more traditional number 10. So they had
Right.
Ozil there with
Hmm.
two people behind him, like Modric and Alonso or whoever,
Yeah. Or
Kedira,
Kedira,
all these,
Las. Yeah.
yes, all these other guys. So like
Yeah.
that's if it was a similar system like that, he might be able to be there. But even with that, maybe they'll prefer Bellingham there over him because Bellingham
Right.
wouldn't like
Exactly.
to be one of the two behind because he wants to score.
Exactly.
He wants to score as well. But
Right.
that system will be more suited for him. But now they play with a more flat midfield where anybody can,
Exactly.
it's
Go up
just
and come
yeah.
down. Yeah.
Even though there's maybe Trameni who sits there and then maybe Kamavinga in front and then Bellingham, it's very fluid. It's not like
Yeah.
back in the day where there was a clear number 10 like Ozil. So
Right.
that's a bad this thing for him. If he had come to Barca, I think maybe he wouldn't have been starting as well. Maybe he could have built himself into the starting line. Maybe he would have been starting as
Yeah.
well. But like I feel like he would have gotten a lot more playing time. A lot more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot
Yeah.
more. Because you know how the Hansi Flick rotates players like Femin and Danny Olmo and all those people in that
Right.
same position. If he
Right.
if he was even as good as like we think he is in Barca, he could have been the one who will be starting in that position, and then they'll be rotating him with Dani Olmo and the rest. But
Mhm.
he made his decision. So like yeah. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
on to Mbappe now.
Mm.
Mbappe, top scorer first season. I think his season wasn't bad in terms of just pure stats, but when you actually watch Mbappe play for Real Madrid, it doesn't give the feeling of like a very good season, Even though you can see the goals, he say, oh, he scored this, he scored it. It doesn't really
Yeah.
give that vibe that yeah, he has had like a good season
Right.
because he first of all his team is generally not performing, and
Mm.
another reason too is he has scored a lot of penalties. He has scored more than 7 penalties, I think. Players
Mm.
like Rafinha took like 2 penalties, and he's still there up there in terms of goals and stuff.
Mm.
Yamal, no penalties. People like that.
Right.
So, what do you think about Mbappe's season?
Yeah. Yeah. So again, with Mbappe's season, the most that you can highlight are the goals, you know.
Yeah,
But when it comes to actually gameplay, yeah, it doesn't pale compared to his PSG days when he
yeah,
was absolutely deadly from any part of the pitch, you
yeah,
know, where he was pushing the ball and just striking fear in every defender he faced. That's simply not the case now. It's almost like they force fed him the
yeah,
ball,
yeah,
and again, like his dribbles don't fall as
yeah,
frequently as they used to, and we don't see him have that burst of pace like he
yeah,
was in PSG.
yeah,
Because in PSG, it almost seemed like wherever he got the ball at
yeah,
any point of the pitch, he could just
Yeah.
burst past every player.
Yeah.
But again, yeah, we don't see that anymore, and it almost seems like Real Madrid's play also has something to do with that.
Yeah.
Because again, like you said, there's a lot more senior players on the
Yeah.
pitch that he has to share the ball with. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And and so yeah, maybe that's what it is because he might hold the ball for too long, go on a
Yeah.
burst to run, and who knows, Vinny might complain and say, "Hey, I was open here," you know. Bellingham might raise up his
Yeah.
hands and say, "Come on." So yeah, I feel like that's what it is. But
Mm.
then again, he used to play, he has played in France, and we have seen that burst of pace
Yeah.
and his tremendous strikes and stuff. So I I think it might boil down to just getting used to the his new team.
Yeah.
And maybe we might see the best of Mbappe to come, but
Yeah.
so far he scored the goals like he
Mm.
said, yes,
Yeah.
but majority of them were from penalties, and majority of them like they were just tap ins, and they
Yeah.
weren't just like the typical Mbappe
Yeah.
goals you see. He's used to scoring the beautiful
There
goals
are no,
where
and
he
plus there are no crucial goals. There are no crucial moments. It was just like,
right, and like
yeah,
he like let's say like he would score like even his last game he scored the hat trick in the El Clasico.
yeah,
But again, they came
yeah,
up short. They
mm,
still lost.
mm,
So he's scoring all of these goals, but like it's not really amounting to
yeah,
anything.
exactly.
So yeah, like it's I think it's a bittersweet season for Mbappe. I'm sure he can't be too upset about his
Yeah,
individual performance because at the end of the day, it was his debut
yeah,
season. But I'm sure he'd be disappointed in the outcome of the whole
yeah,
season since they
mm,
ended it up trophyless. So yeah, I think Mbappe is still a fantastic player. He just needs to really get grounded in Real Madrid and
yeah,
really have a coach to install that confidence that he had in
yeah,
PSG. Just
yeah,
tell him that hey, and that all stems back to the coach telling him, "Hey, this is your team to
yeah,
run." Because in PSG, that's what it was.
yeah,
He he wasn't really playing and thinking like, "Oh, I have to pass the ball to
yeah,
this player, or else he's gonna get upset."
yeah,
And when a player is playing like that, he tends to be limited. You
yeah,
know, and he's almost playing like he's on eggshells. That's
yeah,
what Mbappe is playing like,
yeah.
and he needs to get back to playing freely,
Mm,
enjoying the game without no pressure. So yeah, I
okay.
think I think he can make it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, that was good. But yeah, Mbappe is not getting that guy is 20, he'll be 27 this year. So I still don't think
yeah.
he'll reach the heights that they all expected him to reach in Real Madrid. He might score, win a few golden boots, but he's not going to win as many Champions Leagues and stuff. But
Oh
yeah,
no,
yeah. Anyway, so moving forward, we'll switch to Atletico Madrid very soon. But before we go, just one more thing. Let's talk about the few transfers that have been confirmed now. Alexander Arnold. I know you ain't a big fan of his defensive work. Me, he was my boy. I always used to like him.
yeah.
Who else? Who else have they signed? Have they
The
signed?
defender from Bournemouth,
Yeah, yeah.
the center back.
That guy,
Yeah,
that guy is a good player. I've actually
mhm,
watched him a few times. I even watched his
yeah,
debut in Juve when he came. He was in Juve before he went to Roma and then Bournemouth. He's actually a decent player. And yeah, so let's talk about Arnold. Let's talk
yeah.
about Arnold. What do you think about the Arnold signing in general for Real Madrid?
Yeah, for me, to be honest, it doesn't really mean much to me as a
Yeah,
Barcelona fan or as
yeah,
a fan at all. I don't think he's going to improve the team immensely. It's not
yeah,
going to make any huge difference.
yeah,
If anything, he might even make the team worse, if I'm being
yeah,
honest.
yeah.
Just
Defense,
because,
especially defensively.
right. Just like I said, defense is not too great, and you know how La Liga is
Yeah,
technical
yeah.
compared to the EPL where it's just
Uh,
more physical, long
yeah, yeah,
balls. So I feel like that he's gonna need to adapt to the
yeah,
game to start with,
yeah,
because all these La Liga players are gonna run circles around him, and you can't as a defender you have to be good both ways. Look at
yeah,
the people Real Madrid have had in the past, the Carvajal's and all of that.
mm,
Carvajal's good offensively and defensively.
yeah,
scoring big goals in finals.
yeah,
So when we did have seen it all, so it's not Arnold is really gonna have to fight for his
mm,
spot and really improve his game
yeah,
because those long balls are not gonna do it in the La
mm,
Liga.
yeah. That's fact. So anyway, let's switch quickly to Atletico Madrid. We are running out of time, so let's
Yeah.
just briefly talk about their signings this season and the expectations they had. They know they didn't do as well as they expected, but you know,
Mhm.
Julian Alvarez came into the squad, and right now it looks like he's their best player. What do you think about him?
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that. I think Julian Alvarez is a fine player, and yeah, no, like I said, I wish he would join Barcelona,
Yeah,
but I'm sure the price tag will be high. But yeah, overall, Atletico Madrid kept up a good fight in the
yeah,
title race. Again, they don't have the same spending budget as Barcelona and then Real Madrid,
yeah,
but every year in you're out, you're up in the top three,
yeah,
and you have to give props to your coach Simeone,
yeah,
Mr. Black Suit and Tie.
yeah,
He only has one outfit for game day.
yeah,
That shows his seriousness. He doesn't care
yeah,
about how he looks like. He just wants to get the result.
yeah.
But as a whole, I'll give your rating a B minus.
Mm,
Because they made a lot of huge attacking signings, which is not
yeah,
like them. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
because it's a total contrast to your play style.
yeah.
They like to stay back.
Sit back,
So
yeah.
the fact that they got these offensive players is
Mm,
big for them because now they can actually start to have an attack
yeah,
after they sit back for so long. They can
mm,
actually hit back. They have the
mm,
ability to do that. And yeah, they signed the big man or the Timu Holland, as people
yeah,
call him.
yeah,
The made in China Holland.
yeah,
The slot guy.
yeah,
He's not bad. He actually ended the season with
yeah,
20 goals.
yeah. Scored a hat
So
trick today.
yeah, today. So he
Yeah,
was a great addition to their team, and of course Julian Alvarez as well. He's a hard worker. He fits
yeah,
right into the system. It's a high work rate
yeah,
team,
yeah,
and yeah, no, he's fantastic player, fantastic fit, and you have Griezmann playing like his old self again.
yeah,
You know, so yeah, they're a well-rounded team. Paulo Di Pau,
yeah,
they're a well-rounded team, solid defensively in the midfield as well. So yeah, next season when they have more time to play with each other, build a better chemistry,
yeah,
I think they'll be a very, very tough team to beat
yeah. All right.
and
So,
contending for titles. Yeah,
so, yeah. Apart from Julian Alvarez, they signed a couple of players. Gallagher, the Celot guy you spoke about. A few of them. And then they had some come up from the academy. So quickly before we go and come back for Premier League, let's tell me something about Simeone's son, Giuliano Simeone, because he actually came up from the academy. And the guy has been so good this season. He even scored for Argentina, in the
yeah,
against Brazil in the
yeah,
World Cup qualifier. He has been so good. So, like, say something more about the guy because I mean,
yeah.
he's like his personality looks like his father's personality. So,
Right, right.
yeah,
When he came up, everybody was calling him DB, DB.
yeah,
You see, they say he got the position because
yeah,
his poppy used to be the coach. You see,
yeah,
but he's proven us wrong.
yeah,
I mean, he has a high work rate. He's a young player, and he's pretty clinical in finishing. And
yeah,
as a striker, it's always a plus when you have such a high work rate.
mm,
Because then you can really apply pressure on
mm,
opponents' defenses
mm.
and even apply pressures on goalkeeper,
Yeah.
force
He's one of those.
mistakes and stuff.
He's one of those
Exactly.
players. Yeah,
Exactly. Defenders don't really have much time when they're
yeah,
on the ball. So yeah, no, I think he's fantastic. I think he's about what, 22,
yeah.
21 years old.
Young guy.
He's still a young buck. He has a lot of time to grow. But yeah, no, I've definitely taken down that whole notion that he's in the team because his
Yeah,
father is the coach, because
yeah,
I've watched him play and
mm,
he certainly earned his spot in
yeah,
that team, and I'm excited to see how he does. And honestly, he's almost like a Julian Alvarez
Yeah,
type player. Those guys
yeah,
can you
yeah,
just put them on the pitch, wind them up, and they run 90 minutes.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
saying, hey, if Barcelona is unsuccessful in signing
yeah,
Julian,
yeah,
that wouldn't be a bad
yeah,
option. And if we're to keep Lewandowski, he would be a good
yeah,
like second
yeah,
string striker for
yeah,
Lewandowski. He
mm,
would give the team a jolt of energy
yeah,
every time he's to come on.
yeah,
So yeah, nah, I think he's a good player. So he just has to continue doing what he's doing.
yeah. Plus, it's an addition for our second nationality, Argentina, because we need players who can run like that. We need
Yeah,
runners for the
yeah,
next World Cup
yeah,
because hey,
exactly.
the man
I'm
is not
sure.
getting any younger. You see,
Yeah,
he can't run as much, so he needs the runners around him. He needs the runners like this
exactly,
guy. Better this
exactly.
guy than someone like Garnacho. You know, yeah, better, yeah,
Yeah, right.
better Giuliano Simeone than some Garnacho who is like,
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, that's a plus for us as
yeah.
Argentines. Anyway,
Nah,
yeah, so
absolutely.
yeah, so that's it for Atletico Madrid, and that's it for La Liga wrap up. We'll be
Yeah,
back. We'll be back in a few minutes for the Premier
yeah.
League wrap up because yeah, Premier League wrapped up today as well. So yeah, take a short break.
Let's do it. All right.